Sorry about that. I actually had to do a little work for a second. But anyway, if people are really wanting to make a difference, quit going to the supermarket. Start growing stuff yourself, or support a small local farmer. Buy direct from them. And if that doesn't work for you, you're in an area where there are no small local farmers, then what you can do is either move to where there are or travel to a place where there are. I know for some people that is hard. And if there are no small local farmers in your area and you're really wanting to try to make a difference, even if it's on 1 acre, so you could have a basement apartment in Harlem, New York. Get you some pots, some soil, and grow you some stuff. And you might decide you want to dedicate one room, and you might not be able to grow corn and stuff like that, but 1 bedroom of a basement apartment, and you would be able to supply microgreens. You would be able to supply spinach and collards and other leafy green vegetables really easily, and you would be able to eat them, and whatever you don't eat you can sell to your neighbor or to the community in a general sense, depending on how big of a spot you have. I know in certain cities it is perfectly legal, if you have permission from a building owner, to start a rooftop garden or a rooftop farm. The only difference in the state of Kentucky, at least, the determining factor is how much land do you have. It used to be it was how much money could you make from it. Now in Kentucky you got to have 10 acres to be called a farm. It used to be you had to make at least $1,000 to be called a farm. And if there's a child watching this that this happens to resonate with, or that this gets moving, it could be a teenager, it could be someone that's 75 years old, I don't care. If you want to try to make a difference in this world, then ask your parents, ask your neighbor, whoever, to help you, whether that be with education, with physical labor, with whatever, and grow something. And in a city, if 25% of the flat top roof buildings in the cities of the United States were covered, the overall temperature in those cities would drop. It may be only by 2 degrees, but 2 degrees when it's 100 outside, if you have a nice little breeze, helps out a lot. And I know there's a lot of people that won't like these videos. I'm going to have to split this up into 2, unless I can figure out how to splice them on this phone. They won't like it because of bad camera work or whatever. I'm not here to make professional grade video. That's not what I do. I farm. And like every person on this planet, I like to eat. And if you don't have the space to raise cows, then goats or sheep. If you don't have the space for goats and sheep, then chickens, quail, pheasant. If you, for some reason you're not allowed to have those, most places will allow a rabbit. And I know in certain religions, you can't eat rabbit. That's perfectly understandable. For the rest of us, rabbits will eat this green grass just fine. A little bit of salt or a mixed mineral and water. That's all they need. If you want to raise them in a house, you can. Just make sure you keep them clean. And rabbits will produce a lot. Actually, rabbit is one of the only proteins on the face of the planet that humans can digest 100%. Beef we can't, pork we can't, fish we can't. Rabbits we can. Don't ask me why, I don't know. I have not studied that enough. We do raise rabbits, but I haven't studied them enough to know the ins and outs and the reasons why. But if you have a child that's 3 years old or older and they want to get into raising an animal, start them off with a rabbit. They're fairly cheap, they're easy to keep, they're pretty clean animals, honestly. You do have to clean the manure pan out from under the hutch, but that's normal. They are a lot cleaner and easier to handle than a pig. Or goats are stubborn and mischievous. Sheep like to run from you, and cows make a big mess. A full-grown cow will dump 50 pounds of excrement on the ground per day. Yes, that's a lot. Rabbits, on the other hand, their manure and urine is very good for gardens. There's a lot of nutrients in it. Their manure will not burn up a plant. You don't have to worry about over-fertilizing with it. Now, don't pile a tomato 8 foot deep with it. But other than that, you should be okay. And if you do stuff like this on a small scale, if you have enough people to do it, if you just want to raise a herb garden, that's great. You can have a hanging herb garden in your kitchen. That way you can have your fresh herbs if you like to cook. But for those of us that can, we should. We need to do something. Because if we don't, the government regulates us enough. They regulate literally everything we do. And I know if I tried to have these videos monetized at some point that it would not go through, because it would not meet their regulations or their criteria. So be it. I'm not in this to make money. I am in farming to make money. I work a public job to make money. I'm just starting out with a farm. And hearing that they're wanting to make it where it's illegal to possess or to butcher your animals is infuriating. Some people don't understand why we artificially inseminate an animal. Some people don't understand why we castrate an animal. It's the same as if it was your cat or your dog. We castrate bulls because too many bulls will cause problems on a farm. Too many bulls destroy fences and kill people. But if you castrate them, that takes the spunk out of them. That calms them down, makes them more manageable. Do we do that to all of them? No, because you do have to have enough to reproduce. But chances are you're going to have a 50-50 split between males and females. Your females, if they're not bred, they don't reproduce. Plain and simple. A male, if he's not castrated, can be too much of a hassle and too dangerous for a lot of people. There are certain bulls that will kill just because they can. And those are the bulls that should have been castrated. And those castrated bulls are turned into steers. That's what they're called. They are fattened up and they are eaten. I know Colorado was talking about going through and making it where an animal had to live 25% of their lifespan. Folks, for cattle, a 5-year-old cow, if it is completely grass-fed from a farm, would not be terrible. If that cow has ate nothing but silage and corn and soybeans its entire life, that cow will be terrible. It'll taste bad, it will be tough, and it will not suit what normal beef would taste like. And then instead, if we gotta extend how long we hold on to animals by 5 times, you can expect a 5 times increase in the price, because farmers will not sell cattle for that low price. I know a lot of people that were talking about getting out of cattle, even the way it was now, because the price was so low. And that's all during the pandemic and everything. Cattle prices bottomed out for the farmer. The butcher and the major corporations were making a killing off of it. And there's a reason I said go to your local farmer. Most commercial farms are corporate run. A lot of corporations get a farm for a tax break. That's what it is. Because if a corporation is like, we need to cut $10 million from the budget, we'll just go buy a whole bunch of new equipment for the farm, and then boom, that gives you a tax break. You can either take it all out at once, or you can take it out over a course of 5 to 7 years. And that's strictly, wholeheartedly what it is. It boils down to corporations needed a tax break because they didn't want to have to pay their part of the taxes. A true small farm, not only do we pay taxes, we pay taxes twice. If I go to Tractor Supply, Rural King, one of these places, and buy something, I must pay tax on it. I am not tax exempt. I refuse to be. Because if I'm tax exempt, then I get hit with a huge slam of taxes all at once, and I might not have the money for it. And then I get in trouble for tax evasion. But if I know I'm going to have to pay tax on that nut, that bolt, whatever that I buy from Tractor Supply or Rural King, then I pay the taxes right then and there. I don't get in trouble for it. I go buy a bag of feed. Feed is exempt regardless, but I must pay taxes when I sell that cow or that goat or that chicken. And folks, it's ridiculous. Farmers buy everything at retail price. We do not get anything wholesale. We might buy in bulk and they give us a slight discount just because we take so much at once. But then when we go to sell, if I tried to sell one of my cows right now for $3.75 a pound, which is cost a hamburger right now, I would make over $3,000 on one cow, which sounds amazing. But then the butcher is going to buy that cow for that $3,000 price, cut it up, and that cow is going to get sold for $8,000, which will in turn make the price, instead of being $3.75 a pound, will jack it up to where it's $10 or $12 a pound for the same cut of meat. So I can't sell at a retail price, because if I try to sell at retail goes up and then people don't buy. Simple economics. I know between this video and the other, and these are longer videos for me, but folks, it's getting ridiculous. Whether it's climate change, veganism, whatever, it's getting ridiculous. And if you're a vegan, great, more power to you. But I'm here to tell you, it is hard to get all your protein from strictly plant sources unless you have a global market. Because in the dead of winter in the US, there's not a whole lot to go around. And early spring, it's even harder if you want strictly US produced and US made. Now, is it easy to eat a normal diet that's strictly US based year round? It is easier. And the reason I say easier like that is it's not easy, but it's easier than eating strictly a plant-based diet. Because in the middle of January, kale's not growing, tomatoes ain't growing, and there's nothing growing. And they don't keep during the winter. They're good for so many weeks fresh, and then they must be processed. And even after they're processed, unless they are processed correctly, they will go bad. Meat is the same way. And that's just the way food is. Without a global market, it is hard. Is it impossible? No. Every country, every person on this planet has done it at some point. If you are willing to work it and do it, anyone can eat a very local diet year round. But you've got to be prepared for the amount of food that it entails. It's not going to be, your $300 trip to the grocery store this week. No, there's a lot of food. Like pickup trucks loaded down worth of food that it would take for an entire year. This coming year, we're looking at putting in even larger gardens, because we figured with about a grand total about 3/4 of an acre worth in vegetables, oh yeah, that'll supply us. No, it will not. And there's only 4 of us on our farm. Me, my farmer partners, my fiance. There's 4 of us. So for one person, the number was always like 10,000 square feet or something worth of garden for 1 year. Maybe if that is a perfect pristine garden and you do in very intensive rotational cropping. But in all reality, it takes more. For us, I'm planning on trying to do 3 acres for the 4 of us. And yes, that is a huge amount of land. A lot of people will say that's too much. If it's too much, that'll give us enough not only to store up, but to sell, to make a little bit of money off of. That way ours does not actually cost us anything. I'm hoping to be able to break even on it from the sales. And if someone's needing stuff in our community, fine, we'll help. That's the kind of people we are. But don't come to us expecting a handout all the time. And that's the way people have to be. The way this is with the Democrats and the climate change activists and everything, I'm not saying you guys are bad. I'm just saying you are either working for an agenda or you are misinformed. If you are working for an agenda, shame on you. Plain and simple, shame on you. If you are misinformed, that is not entirely your fault. There is a lot of misinformation out there. Do the research. It might take years and years worth of research to get a good grasp of what's going on. Because with animals, we can reverse climate change. Can we do it with just plants? No. There is no environment on the face of this planet that is strictly plants. And any society that thought about cutting out meat failed. Plain and simple. If you cut out the animals, look at the Sahara. Most of those animals were partially driven south because of hunting due to the Egyptians. And once the animals left, the grass did not get pruned and could not sequester carbon and hold moisture. And then it turned into a desert. And then it's been a snowball effect ever since. People are just now starting to realize this. I know it's a long video, and I know the camera work sucks, and I know the picture here sucks, but I was watching his videos and I had to say something. I agree with Zach 100% on what he's saying, and I don't say that a lot. So, Zach, more power to you. And I'm not saying this kind of stuff for clickbait or anything like that. I don't care if one person watches this and one person makes a change and they can help one other person to change. That is all I care about. So, guys, I know it's a long one, but I just had to say something.